We're going to give it a couple minutes and I'll do a little bit of housekeeping, but I just want to kindly remind everybody to keep yourselves muted. Or if you have a question, stuff like that, there's the chat box that you can use. So if you look at your top left-hand corner where it says chat, that is where you can actually type in questions to us. So both Abby, our marketing and communications manager here, and myself, I'm Amanda Camara, will be moderating the chat. And then I know Jillian's going to take a breather in between her presentation to allow for some questions halfway. And then we'll be doing some Q&A at the end as well. So perfect. Can everybody maybe just with a thumbs up in the chat, let me know if they can see our screen right now? Okay, getting lots of thumbs, so that's perfect. I feel like I'm doing a great job now that I got all those thumbs up. Okay, so you know what? I'll start with a quick intro here. So my name is Amanda Camara. I am VP of Biz Dev and Marketing here at Supply Build Canada. You probably have gotten 1 or 2 emails from me over the last 2 years at the very least. Liz is actually away this week, so I'm just stepping in for her here. And Brandish partnered with us to put on this incredible webinar because it is a topic that is super relevant in today's day and age. Social media, it's your sales pipeline, it's your brand awareness, it's engagement with your customers, and it's a really powerful communication tool. So we're really excited to bring this webinar. We are planning another webinar for next August. The details are to follow. I believe it's actually going to be specifically on sales. So as soon as we get that information, we'll have that out for you guys as well. And I wanted to remind you guys of a couple Supply Build Canada events that are upcoming. So one, we have on August 11th in Saskatoon, we have a Build Her event, which we're doing a careers panel. So we actually have like Jill Reed from Federated Co-op, the Ultimate Deck Shop, and we have Durable Windows and Doors. We have 3 wonderful women who are sharing their kind of career path and some expertise that they have. So that's August 11th. You can find this stuff on, if you go to supplybuild.ca, and if you go under events, this is all on our events website too. On August 20th in Manitoba, we actually have the Build Her Careers panel on August 20th. And we changed the location to the Lumber Zone, so we're actually hosting it there. And then it's going to be followed with another panel, which is called Panel with the Pros. And so it's going to be more business focused and what's going on currently on the retail side of the industry. And this stuff is free and open to all members. We just want you to pre-register because we try and gauge numbers for food. And we're bringing in Mary Brown's Chicken because they're a preferred partner of ours as well. So you can get excited for some fried chicken. And then, of course, if anybody got our email this morning, we have our Forge and Form Gala on October 22nd. And so with this gala, we're actually came out with this whole new award program. So we have 15 plus awards that are up for grabs. So we're actually celebrating 135 years. And the way that we wanted to celebrate this was through representing the innovation in the industry and this long 135 years worth of legacy. So if you go to our website too, you can actually find the nomination information. So I have about 9 or 10 awards for retailers. And then I have like another 7 or 8 for vendors as well. So take a look at that. We're really excited about it. Capacity is limited for the gala. So make sure you opt in sooner rather than later because we're already almost halfway sold out as well. Anyway, without further ado, I would like to introduce Jillian. And actually, so before I do that too, I just want to give a big thank you to Sexton Group. So Sexton is actually been powering all our webinars for the year. So we're really excited about this partnership with them. And they're actually the ones that have been able to allow us to bring in and partner with other members and stuff like that to give this great education. So Jillian Long, she is the communication strategist at Brandish. She lights up when it comes to planning events, social media, and building community for brands. She loves finding creative ways to bring people together, whether it's through social media post or a memorable in-person moment. She's all about creating connections while having fun along the way. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to Jillian. Jillian, take it away.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm very happy to be here. We've worked on this transition, so I'm going to try and make it as smooth as possible as I go to share my screen. Here we are. Perfect. And I'll just look for a couple of thumbs up. Can everybody see the presentation here? Perfect. Amazing. Great. So hello, welcome to this really exciting webinar that Supply Build Canada has kindly asked Brandish to co-host. I'm Jillian, the communication strategist here at Brandish. And today I am going to be talking about social media and hopefully teaching you some tips and tricks on how you can utilize it to build your online presence that can help you enhance your brand awareness and increase sales, which is the goal, I think, for all of us at the end of the day. A quick intro to Brandish. We are a creative agency. We do all things that you'd expect a creative agency to do, things like strategy, research, creative campaigns, rebranding, the lot. We started in Winnipeg in 2016, and now we work across the country with teams in Edmonton and Winnipeg specifically. I joined Brandish a few years back, right after the pandemic. And since then, I have been working with the communications team to elevate and shape Brandish's brand awareness, our social media presence, and help build up our company's community through in-person events. So I know we are all here today to talk about social, to dive into the world of social media and get to know it a little bit better. I'm sure we all have different levels of experience, understanding, and engagement with social media, either personally or professionally. So today I kind of hope that this presentation will be almost like a one-stop shop for all the information that you should be focusing on while trying to build a presence on social media that will help you boost your awareness, increase your engagement, and drive your sales. By the end of it, I hope we'll all leave here with some easy to action tactics, some pro tips, and some next steps. So let's go through the agenda for today so we're all on the same page before we get started. Here we go. So the kind of context, the big idea of it all is I want to walk us through today's social landscape. I also want to talk about the different platforms, what they are, what they should be used for, and also where you probably shouldn't be putting your efforts. We'll talk about this a lot more, but social media can feel very overwhelming and daunting, especially if it's something that you don't put too much effort into already, or you don't have a designated social team that kind of guides the way for you. We'll also talk a lot about audience and how to find the audience that you're looking for on social media. We're then going to transition that information into kind of practice, how we can use this to build yourself a presence that aligns with your brand and business goals. I'll kind of walk through how content creation looks in today's day and age, and also break down how to create your social media strategy. I've tried to make it super simple and almost as broad spectrum as possible to fit all the different kind of people that we're speaking to today. I wanted to make sure that it's adaptable and that you can find yourself in there. And then before closing out, I'll have some pro tips for you, as well as a brief overview of the strategy, and open it up to some questions at the end. I will be pausing about midway to ask for some questions. So if you do have anything then, please feel free to share. And if you have anything pertinent to a slide that I'm on that you'd like me to either go through again or break down a little bit more, please feel free to stop me. I'll have Amanda here that's going to help me do that because I can't see the chat. Yeah, so let's get into it. So the social world we know is changing. We're living in a time of this game-changing technological process. The change is impacting every sector, every discipline, and every organization. These changes are also being seen in how users engage with social media and how now it's rather a tool rather than a toy. Gone are the days of scrolling for fun memes, just looking to see what your friends are up to or connecting with your family. Social media is a tool, it's a connector, an innovator, and especially it's a key driver in societal action and reaction. There's a wide range of platforms where communities can be found. And I think one of the first mistakes that people make when approaching social media is either putting their effort into the wrong platform, or feeling that you need to be present on every platform to be successful. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that is something that I think is really important to kind of keep in the back of your mind throughout this presentation. So there's a wide range of platforms where communities can be found. And when I think we're talking about this sector, we'll go through it a little bit more, but there's a couple key platforms where I think you should be present. Yeah, so you're probably thinking, where do I begin? This is maybe a little bit new for me. Maybe you have a bit of experience, but at the same time, you're looking to either expand or realign if you have some business changes. So let's get into it, and let's start with what platforms are out there and which ones I think that you should be worrying about and which ones I think you don't have to. So these are, to me, the 5 core social media platforms that many businesses invest in. I think they're kind of the 5 ones that lead social media right now. There are a few other platforms that you may be familiar with, like X or formerly Twitter or Reddit, and these are all great platforms. But I think for today's session and the industry that we're in, these are the ones that we should be focusing on. First, let's dive into Facebook. Now, Facebook is one of the OGs in social media. It's been through many eras and phases, but it's remained as one of the most popular platforms for building awareness, promoting sales, events, and engaging with local communities. Facebook is a key platform for companies working in your industry, and I think it's one that should be kind of on the top of your list in terms of your social strategy. Then let's talk about Instagram. Now, Instagram is the visual storytelling platform of all platforms. Instagram has become a close second to Facebook, if not tied to Facebook, in my opinion, in terms of necessity when building a social media platform and presence online. People use Instagram not only as a place to connect with other people, but they use it as a place to connect with businesses, services. They use it as a way to gather information and to find if they can trust a brand or not. They'll do this through seeing if you're present, seeing when the last time you posted was, seeing who follows you, if anybody in their network follows you, and if there's any content on there that feels not aligned with what they think your business is going to be. Then let's get into YouTube. Now, YouTube is an incredible platform, and it's actually one of my favorites as a content consumer. But it's one that also requires a bit more of a higher lift in terms of content creation and execution. Now, when done right, YouTube channels are incredibly useful and valuable to customers and clients, but can also really help enhance brand credibility and brand awareness. Now, if this is something that, if you have a social team or you have someone on your team who loves creating videos, I think YouTube is a fantastic platform to start investing in. However, it is a bit of a higher lift because taking video, for those who've done it, know that it takes a lot more than you think. So I wouldn't say that this is your first place to start investing in, but if you have someone on your team who loves creating videos, I really think YouTube is a valuable tool in this industry. Now for LinkedIn. LinkedIn, originally known as kind of a networking platform rather than a social media platform, has slowly transitioned into a hub of content and brand building efforts. Many businesses' LinkedIn pages are for creating these B2B relationships, developing your network, and sharing company updates and hiring. But it's also becoming a place where customers are looking to find these more thought leadership, experiential, I guess, tactics that people tend to not share on things like Instagram or Facebook. A bit more of the business behind the scenes is where some people are starting to come to LinkedIn for. So it's really interesting to see how the platform is growing and changing, and also how you kind of have to start adapting to the kinds of content that you're looking to post on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, it's also really important to kind of keep it cohesive and consistent with your other platforms. It's very easy to feel like you have to put on this whole other face on LinkedIn because it's more of that network professional page. But a lot of people are starting to change the way that they look at LinkedIn and the way that they use LinkedIn to feel a bit more of that social media vibe that you get on Instagram or Facebook. So it's an interesting change to see and something that I think we should keep our eye on. And lastly is TikTok, which is the newest kid on the block. And TikTok is a wild platform. Its Instagram or its algorithm is wicked fast and wicked smart. So it's really easy to either fly or die on the platform is kind of what I like to say. Now, the key to finding success on TikTok is finding a niche. And once you find your niche, and if you're very active and engaging with that community and posting consistently, you can completely blow up your business and you can completely change the way that you are perceived on social media. But that takes a lot of work. So I think in this industry specifically, it's something that, again, if you have someone on your team or you have a social media team that loves creating short form video and you have the time to invest in TikTok, it doesn't hurt at all. But I think if we're talking about basics and where you should be, TikTok is something that can kind of come down the pipeline. It's something that if you have the time to do and you have someone who wants to do it, why not? But it does take a lot of effort to stay consistent and to stay relevant on TikTok. So those are kind of my tips and guidances for what platforms you should be on. We will talk about this a little later down in the presentation here, where we'll just go through back through these platforms to see what kind of audiences are also found on these platforms and how you can engage with them. So this may be a bit of a sad stat to some of us that nearly half of Gen Z and millennials, which encompasses the ages about 13 to 44 right now, spend more time on social media consuming content, learning information, and being exposed to thousands of brands, ads, and promotions than they do engaging with the physical world. Now, these are generations that grew up very digitally fluent and spend most of their youth engaging with different types of technology as they were emerging. So it's become really meaningful, and it's become something that is so engraved in the way that we go about the world and how we even perceive the world, that it's important to keep this in mind. But gone are the days of driving all the way down to a store to see if they have what you need in stock. Now that answer is a Google or an Instagram DM away. But it's not just younger people. The number of baby boomers who use TikTok has grown 57% since 2021. It's clear that we're all spending a lot of time in the digital world and on our technology, but some things have become so easy to access that we're genuinely adapting the way that we live and exist in the world around less social interaction. And I don't think this is going to be changing anytime soon. So when you're developing a social strategy and you're trying to grow your business or build brand awareness, this is something that you have to keep in mind. And you have to be where the people's attentions are, which is currently on their phones and in their social media feeds. Our content expectations have changed, and more importantly, how people engage with that media has also shifted. People wake up, they scroll, we listen to a podcast, we watch video clips that our friends sent us, and we read an article from a push notification. Content consumption is chronic for many people, but it's also a way that we can grow our understanding of the world, learn more, engage with new audiences, and build our community. People expect the brands that they love and the brands that they want to know about to show up in their feeds without having to do the work to find them. This digital ecosystem that people have built kind of comes through every day on a daily basis, and it changes as we go through life. This is why having a strong social media strategy for your business that's aligned with your goals and your customer, your target audience is crucial, because there's so many things that change in the day to day, and maintaining what's important to you and your business at the core of it is really all that matters. And what's also interesting about this kind of change in the way that we're using social and technology is that audiences want authenticity, not polished. I think at the beginning of kind of the ad and marketing day, it was all about presenting something perfect, presenting something very ideal. And now that's almost becoming just kind of pushed away by people. People want authenticity. People want to feel that they can relate to something that they see online. So when you hear the word authenticity in terms of content, you shouldn't be thinking about, oh, we need to be creating these punchy videos that get people's attention, or we need to hire an influencer to start promoting our product. That's stuff that people do like, but you don't necessarily need to be successful on social media. I always think some of the best video content that I see is stuff that feels like someone just picked up their phone and wanted to share something with you, or they just saw something and they felt the need to share it. It feels like you're really in the moment and that you're kind of sharing something with someone, even if you don't know who they are. So when you're thinking about your content, when you're thinking about showing up online, think being real, be practical, be helpful, and make sure that your content feels authentic to who your brand or your company is, because that's really what earns trust today. So here we go, another one. We're seeing a massive shift in what people actually respond to when it comes to content. So 86% of consumers, and this is by Sprout Social, which is a pretty large social platform, 86% of consumers consider branding authenticity crucial when deciding which brands to support. Now, this tells us something simple but powerful, is people engage based on who and what they feel is real, and they turn that into content and engagement that helps them kind of understand what they need to from what they're trying to get, which is kind of a convoluted way to say is if someone doesn't connect with your content, it's either because they are someone who probably isn't your ideal audience, or the content that you're creating isn't what they want to see. 63% of people say that they would rather that they prefer authenticity over polished and marketing videos. So people would rather see these rough or unpolished videos that feel real rather than something super highly produced, which is really good news for us because that doesn't mean that we need to go out and hire a new social media team or we need to, find a great videographer. You really just need a phone and a point of view. This also relates to creating really timely content. You don't need to do every trend. And I think this is something that can feel like a bit of a relief when you're approaching social media is it moves so fast and you feel like you need to be on top of it just in order to survive. But that's something that I think we don't really like to do here at Brandish. And it's also not something that I personally see as a strength in social media strategies because not every company is built to live on a trend and not every brand is built to sustain or engage with them at the same time. Sometimes, like, I wouldn't want to see my doctor doing a TikTok dance. That wouldn't make me want to go and get my yearly appointment with them. You have to know what content is needed in terms of your industry and what your audience is looking for. So these are things that I like to say is you don't need to do every trend, and you really don't need to do these things in order to feel relevant to your audience. You just need to be consistent, present, and engaged on your channels. Do a quick check in your mind right now and think, when was the last time the comments on your Instagram were replied to? Or when was the last time you checked your DMs to see a message from a customer and responded in the way that was timely and helpful to them? When was the last time that you posted your updated inventory or your offerings so that customers could see what was happening in store and come on down? In order to be timely, you have to make quick decisions. And this is something that is important when social media is to always be thinking about it in the back of your mind. So let's say you're going into store, take some videos on your way in. If you have a one-day sale, make sure you're posting that immediately or in advance to make sure your customers are aware of what's happening. And it doesn't need to be perfect at first or really ever. Being consistent is what's most important. So creating content has never been easier. Expectations and tools are starting to be aligned. Audiences today value the authenticity over the high production quality that we've talked about. And this means a shift in kind of what content needs to be professionally produced to be effective. So we've gone from people having expensive camera shoots or complicated editing software to really just having an iPhone and something that helps you produce it. So you could be using ChatGPT or you could be doing auto caption, something that makes making content easy for you. Whatever that means is what works, and that's okay. Also, what people are expecting from social media has completely changed. 55% of people trust user-generated content more than anything a brand puts out. Now, user-generated content, if you're not familiar with the term, or UGC, is content created by a customer, client, or anybody really who engages with your product in a non-biased way. This could be a customer that walks in and picks up a product and decides to post it on Facebook to their friends saying, I got this really great new thing, check this out. That's something that's UGC. So that kind of content is incredibly impactful in terms of the way people perceive your company. It's more of this like trust signal that there's someone else in the world who likes to shop here, or there's someone else who tried this product and thinks it's great. It's that feeling that we're not alone and we're looking for someone to rely on and help us through this process. Now, if you don't have access to people who are willing to create content, or you don't have people in your network that are naturally creating this content, there are some things that you can do that kind of mimic this style by creating content that feels natural, unscripted, and authentic, that can kind of mimic this and get other people trying to do it themselves. Now, this could look like a quick video that you take on your phone on the retail floor, or just taking a picture of a product that just launched and sharing that on your stories. Stuff that feels very real and authentic in the moment can help get people in the thought process to be creating the content themselves. Also, don't put it down. A lot of customers are willing to help more than you think. And just doing a quick ask saying, hey, do you mind sharing your experience with this, or tell us how you think about this next time you come in a store. Those kind of moments are really important to get customers in the mindset that you also want to hear what they have to say. And now content creation isn't the roadblock anymore. These are a lot of the, I think, main feelings that you get when you're being told by someone like me, per se, to have a social media strategy. It can feel overwhelming, confusing, time consuming, intimidating, chaotic, unnecessary. It can really feel like it's something that is just another thing on your to-do list. And that's okay and that's natural. But I want to let you know that there's a lot of things that we can do to make it almost feel seamless and easy. You've got a camera. You probably all have a smartphone of some type or know someone who does, and you've got an audience already. So that's the thing. Creating content isn't that roadblock anymore. You do it in your day to day, in the conversations you have, and the people that you speak to. It's really just about hitting record and trying to find a way to place that online and find the right home for it. There we go. So let's get into it. Did I slip? No. Let's get into it. Your social media strategy. I'm just going to take a quick break here and see if there are any questions before we get into the breakdown of how to build your social media strategy. Any questions?
Yeah, you know what, Jillian? I actually have a question. So, one was user-generated content. So, how would you suggest capturing that? So I know traditionally it'd be through sharing content on a social media channel. However, full disclosure, when I've shared from another page, so on the retail side, if you're sharing from your vendor who's maybe posted this really beautiful photo, I've noticed a reduction in engagement when I've done that stuff. Is there another way to use user-generated content that you might recommend for people?
Yes, there's certain ways. The first that I always like to do is directly ask the person. Make sure you're always getting consent to use someone else's content before reposting it on your page. So you can do that. Let's say they posted something on Instagram. You can either do that by adding a comment saying, "We love this post. Are we able to share it on our social media?" If they don't have their page public and you can't message them, that's the way that we do it. And usually they'll contact you back saying yes or no, thank you. From there, what I'd say is take that content and try and just completely repurpose it. So let's say that they shared it again on their social media Instagram feed. I would, if you can, take a screenshot, capture it yourself and post it as your own post. Make sure you're giving credit to that customer. That's really important when you're working with UGC because it's not your content and you don't own it. You have to be giving credit. But that's a way that you can kind of beat that system where reposting often doesn't bring engagement at all. I find especially on LinkedIn, the second you repost something, it's like this reached 0 people, which is great. But something I like to do is try and capture that content in your own way and post it organically. Just always ensure that you're giving credit to the original poster.
Hey, thank you. And my second question was, I wanted to get your thoughts really quickly on AI generated content. So I'm a TikToker religiously. I'm also a millennial, everybody. I'm not even gonna pretend. And so I love there's the AI trend where you're you post a photo and you're like, AI will choose what happens next, right? I've seen those really take off, but I've also seen those videos where chicken, banana, chicken, right? So you get onto those trends, but then you also get into this realm of things look really real and it gets a little scary. And it's how can maybe some of our dealers or our vendors leverage AI in terms of using social media, or is it stay clear right now? Because to me, that doesn't really fall in the realm of authenticity. But so maybe if you could speak a little bit to that as well.
For sure. And AI is, it's a timely conversation in so many industries, especially social media, because it's so easy to use it when creating content. My rule of thumb is if you don't have to use it, don't use it. Authentic content will win at the end of the day all the time. I think those odd times that we see an AI video that's completely gone viral, it's usually either because it's completely silly or it's somehow fooled all these people, and the engagement is people saying, "I can't believe this is AI. What? This is AI?" But that's not the way I think that you want to engage with your customers or even find your customers. You want to be leading with what's real and what's real to you. And I'm not saying though that you can't use AI to kind of make the process easier. And I'll kind of speak about using it a little bit later in the presentation. But I think there's no shame in like using something like ChatGPT to help you generate ideas for your social media content. Heck, I do it. If you're kind of in a moment where you think, I don't know what to post, or how is this even relevant to my audience, it's a great tool to use to say, this is what I want to post. This is the industry. This is my company. This is what we do. How can I make this into a piece that's relevant to this audience? It can spit back about 10 to 15 ideas. And from there, you can either use them, or often I find it kind of kickstarts your own imagination to think, yeah, that's a great idea, or I don't like what they thought, I'd prefer doing this. It's a way that I think you can make the process of creating content feel a lot easier and less laborious, because there's days where it's the last thing you want to do. You're super busy, but it's really important to kind of your sales, and you have a promotion coming up that you need to post. But I would say in terms of creating visually AI generated content, I would say steer clear of it. That's just my personal opinion. If it's something that fits kind of the brand personality you have, let's say it's kind of like a funny AI take, and your social media is run by someone who has a great sense of humor and loves to post kind of funny content, I'd say it's like, could be a fun piece. But if it's something that's kind of being used to build that brand loyalty and that brand credibility, I wouldn't use it as like a strategy for that, because I think, again, like we were talking about, it's not authentic and customers can see right through it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, of
Now, just for everybody in
course.
the audience, I don't see any other hands raised, but there is a button at the top where if you raise your hand, I can call you by name, and then you can unmute yourself to ask the question, or you can throw it in the chat as well. But I think you can maybe proceed. I don't see anybody else with their hands up right
Okay.
now.
Perfect. We'll get into it. And if you do have any questions, because this is a bit more of the hands-on tactical part of the presentation, that I assume if there'll be questions, it will happen now. So feel free to raise your hand or write a question in the chat box. All right, your social media strategy. These are the basics. Let's get into what we've all kind of come here for today, which is how to kickstart your social media, or how to realign and elevate the one that you're currently using. So the first step in any strategy, really, at the end of the day, is to really have clear objectives. And this is no different for working with social media. What do you want to get from your investment in social media? Now, this needs to be clear. Here are some common I guess, objectives that a lot of people will have. But you want to start by doing an analysis of your business's needs. What do you need to focus on right now or for the next 6 months? That's dependent on your business cycle. Clearly define what these goals are and make sure to keep them top of mind throughout your whole content planning process. So things like driving foot traffic, inquiries, staying top of mind, educating and supporting, promoting new products or suppliers, strengthening local brand presence, or recruiting new staff and promoting your company culture. These are some common objectives that a lot of companies have when they are entering the space. And it really helps you down the line hone in on what content is important and keeps you out of the black hole of social media where you feel like you have to be posting everything every day on every platform. If you have a really clear objective, it could be one thing, it could be a couple. That whole process of figuring out where you will be and how you'll show up on social media becomes super, super easy. 2, know your key audiences. Now, the industry that I think we're all working with here is very diverse, and your content should reflect the people that you want to speak to and the minds of those you want to get inside. But getting to know these people and finding out where they are online can feel daunting because it's such a vast world out there, and you may think you know where they are and they end up not being there, and then you feel like all your effort has gone to waste. So here are some things that you can start thinking about when getting to know your audiences and trying to find where they are online. It's the foundation of an effective social media, especially in this industry where buying decisions are practical and they're relationship driven and often repeat based. You want to be sure that you're building a really strong audience who can connect with you both in person and online. You also want to ensure that you're creating content that is answering their questions, solving their problems, or giving them the ideas, insights, and experiences that they didn't even know they needed or wanted from your company. So what does getting to know your audience means? First, it means understanding who they are. Now, this could be what kind of demographics you're speaking to, the professions of those in your audiences, and kind of who they are as people. Are they people that like to be online at all? If they're not, well, then you know that maybe social media isn't where you should be putting your effort, and that's better into email or flyers, things like that. Um, and you got to also figure out what they care about. You got to see their needs, their challenges, their goals as a customer to your company. You also kind of need to find where they spend their time online. Now, this is can be tricky. There are ways that we can find out this, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But what platforms do they engage in? What kind of content types are they looking for? Do they only watch videos? Do they only read long form content or blogs? Knowing this is important because that'll help you decide what kind of content you should be investing in. And what kind of content earns their attention? So again, just knowing exactly what you're posting is something they want to see. You don't want to be putting a bunch of effort into content that'll just be scrolled by, because what's the fun or point of that? And knowing where they're active. So when they're active. So some people are only really active during certain times of the year on social media if they're less busy at work or they're in a lull of a project. Certain times of the day, different project cycles, people have different engagement tactics with social media. And you can find this through looking at your insights on Facebook or Instagram and kind of starting to understand the trends of your audience. But the real question is, how do you find your audience? This is something that can feel very daunting, uh, especially if you kind of have an audience that you're not really connected with, especially online. You might know all the customers that come into your store by name and you've known them for years, but then you go to your social media and you don't know the 50 people that are following you. This is something that can feel a bit daunting because you're not sure where the overlap is. Something that we always like to do at Brandish is talk directly to people. And this is something that you can do in your store. So ask your current customers, start with the people that are already buying from you. Who are they? Do you know their professions? And do you know exactly kind of what their projection or projects are that they're currently working on? Do you know where they go in terms of product information and inspiration? It'll be interesting because you'll get a lot of honest insights. Every time we've done it, we learn so much about people. We learn so much about behaviors and opinions. And it's sometimes some people just want to be asked or just have that conversation, and you'll see where it goes to. You'll get a lot of great data and information from that. And another great tip for people working, in the retail space is to use these in-story conversations and experiences as clues and drivers for creating your strategy. What we like to say is train your staff to be like that frontline marketing team that you have. Ask them to kind of engage more with customers, maybe while they're at checkout or walking through the store. You can say, what questions do most people ask you about this product whenever they are checking out? Or what products seem to be the most confusing? What do people love or hate about certain things? Once you get that information, you can start seeing these gaps and these areas where people are needing this kind of either education or support in terms of information that you can turn into content that you post on social media. Secondly is to review your sales data. So you can look through your data and see a lot of really great trends that you can turn into content. You can start to see who buys the most from you, what categories are, repeat purchases, what time of year do certain products peak, and you can build your social strategy around these data points as well. It really shows you what your customers are already buying from you and how you can kind of leverage that to increase sales. This is really great data to look at, and if you have access to it, I would say try to look at it as often as possible, especially when looking through your social media strategy. If you're kind of evaluating either every season or every quarter, just making sure that what's happening in your sales is kind of being mimicked on your social platforms. Another great thing to do is to join local trade groups or forums. These are kind of undercover hotspots in terms of information for social media people. It's a kind of a trick that we like to do. It's either you go into Reddit or you go into a Facebook community and you see what people are asking about. You see what the issues people are having, and you start to see that there's a lot of folks who don't know where to take these questions. And once you can get that information, you get that insight, you can turn that into content that solves problems and becomes really helpful. And again, that shows you as a bit of a leader in the space, and it shows that you're connected to your community and you are taking it seriously what their experience is. It's really helpful, and you'll find engagement really peaks when content like that starts to create, because you're directly answering questions or problems that people are having. All right, so here's a couple, I guess, ideas between like audiences and what they want to see. So for example, contractors and trades, I'm assuming that they would like to see the availability, pricing updates, reliability, and speed. And this is all shown because they're needing to know what's there now. Can I get there today? Is it available? They want to see this promoted very timely. I think they want to have as less laborious work done. They don't want to be going to a bunch of different stores. They want to know, if I'm going to the place that I always go to, I know that they will have this because 2 days ago they posted that they got a brand new shipment of the product I'm looking for. DIY or homeowners, they're looking for inspiration, how-tos, more customer service-based content. Designers and architects may be looking for those innovative products, the finishes, more of a sustainability type of content. This could be a bit more educational, informational styles of content. And suppliers could be looking for brand alignment, marketing partnership potential. So these are some different audiences and kind of what they want to see. And the more that you get to know what who your audience is and what they're looking for, the easier it'll be for you to create the content that they want to see. So number 3, choosing the right platforms. Let's relook at this from earlier. Now that you have a bit of a better understanding of who your audience is and what they're looking for, you can start to see where they naturally align. Are they a landscaper looking for inspiration for their next big project? They'll probably be on Instagram, because that's that visual storytelling platform that posts before and afters, posts pictures of a product being used. If you're, a DIY expert looking to get, real feedback on a product or information on where to buy a specific thing, they'll most likely be on Facebook in either a community chat or a neighborhood group chat. There's certain places that audience naturally gravitate towards for certain things, and sometimes your audience will be on multiple platforms, but it just depends on what you're offering, kind of in finding that perfect match. So my recommendation for those of you who have currently either no social media presence at all, or you haven't really use your social media in the last years or months, is just to choose one platform. Choose the platform that you think right now your audience is most engaging with you on. Let's say it's Facebook. Focus on Facebook. Make sure that you are building consistent content and really engaging as much as possible on that platform before leaping into a new platform. Now, if you're someone who has kind of a little bit of a presence on a couple platforms, but let's say you have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and TikTok, but you haven't posted on any of them in the last month or 2, I would say streamline yourself back down to 2. Focus on 2. That could be Facebook and Instagram, as those are kind of some of the easiest platforms to get a hold of, because you can use content on both. Just simplify it. Take away the stress of feeling like you have to be everywhere, and just refocus on the 2 that are most important to your audience. And once you get back into that swing of content, you can just start repurposing and syndicating your content across all your platforms. Eventually, you might get to a space where you feel like once you post something on Facebook, you're confident that you'll post it on Instagram, LinkedIn, and maybe make a small YouTube video about that later in that day. That's something where your social media, you may have a team for that or someone who's in charge. That kind of is where that can come into play. But if it's just you running it, or you just have a couple people running it from your store, I would say focus on 1 to 2 platforms and make sure you're showing up on those consistently and regularly.
Jillian, we actually had a comment which I think would be really relevant to the slide you were just on. And it's, what are your thoughts? And this comes from Tia Matic, and thoughts on having different content on different platforms. Our Instagram is linked to Facebook. Is this effective?
That's a great comment, Tia. I think it's interesting because there are certain types of content that do really well on certain platforms. But I think when it comes to, like you're saying, Facebook and Instagram being linked, clearly that works for a reason. I don't see, for us, let's say when I'm posting something on Instagram, our engagement on Facebook is not as strong, but that's because Instagram is more of our main platform that we play on. However, I think having that content syndicated fits because people are usually on Facebook and Instagram at the same time. But what I wouldn't probably recommend is posting something that you would post on Facebook onto TikTok. So it's kind of about understanding what works on each platform and what kind of content people are looking for while they're on that platform. So I don't think as many people are on TikTok looking for, the current deals happening at their local retail store. They're probably looking on Facebook or Instagram to see if there's a promotion happening this week. That's not to say that they wouldn't be looking on TikTok or they wouldn't be interested if they found it, but I would say your effort should be probably where that content fits first, and putting your effort there. I would say if you want to kind of cross syndicate content and post the same thing on multiple things, make sure it just fits. So I would say like the three that you could do that the easiest on is Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. But I wouldn't start cross promoting that specific content onto platforms like YouTube or TikTok. Hopefully that answered your question, but I might have gone a little off.
Perfect. Thank you. We do have another question, but we'll save it for the end because I know we want to get through the presentation too, Jillian. So I'll let you proceed.
Okay, amazing. So back to streamlining your content. This is just about keeping it simple. Like I was saying, you don't have to do everything at once or be everywhere at once. And to be honest, I really don't recommend that at all. I think the best way to approach social media is to start small and stay consistent. Maybe start with a weekly post of your current in-store sales every week, update your channels with that information. You'll see people will start to rely on it and expect it from you every week. And over time, this doesn't only build that stronger social engagement, but it actually increases brand loyalty and brand credibility with your audience. So here, I'm going to do this really quick because I do see that we're kind of getting short on time here, but I wanted to give you 3 content pillars that I think are really great staples in this industry that you can start with today. And the content pillars are kind of broad pieces of content that you can always find something within. So for example, the first one is people. So everybody loves to see people online. At Brandish, 99% of our content is about either our people or our clients. And we noticed a huge jump in engagement when we started posting this really people-oriented content. People want to know who they're buying from and who they're doing business with. And sometimes we also want to see who the other customers are. I think it's human nature to be curious about other people's behaviors and consumer habits. It's very interesting for us. And when you see content that reflects that, naturally people are more drawn to it. So I would say, how do you go about getting content from people or people content to start posting on social media? So I would say start with your internal team. And usually that's the easiest place to get buy-in, although I do know that sometimes that is also a huge hurdle. But I would just start by explaining why it's so important to have this content on your feeds. Your customers want to see who they're working with. They want to see, which sales employee might be helping them when they come into the store that day. They want to know the faces and names, just like you want to know theirs. So I would say if you can get your internal team bought into the idea of helping create content for your social platforms, this is great. You can either start by just taking pictures of them at work, what your space looks like and who the team is working on that day. Or if you ever go to a work event, use that as a great way to show your company culture. These photos don't have to be fancy. These videos don't have to be fancy at all. They can be taken on your phone. Just make sure you have good lighting. Everybody's in focus. And I always like to say, make sure people are smiling. Another content pillar here that's important for the sector is education. This is a great place for you to share product features, tips and tricks, do-it-yourself examples, any little did you know facts about these products, services, or vendors that you're working with. And you want to be a space where people feel that they can learn something from. And before you know it, you will have these people reaching out to you with questions. And when this happens, you have struck gold in the social media world. That's something that everybody wants to have, where your audience is giving you ideas on what they need from your content. Now, this kind of content is best done visually in my perspective. I would say start start with this education content pillar by picking a product or something that you always get questions or feedback about. What's that one product that someone says, oh, I've always wanted to try that, but I've never gotten around to it? If there's something that's always at the center of that, I would say pick that and try and make a 60-second video explaining what it is, explaining the pros and cons, explaining its use cases, and just answering those questions that you get directly from your customers. Now, this video, it doesn't even really have to go anywhere at first. It can be a great way for you to exercise what creating content looks like. But if it turns out great, I would say post it on social media and see how your audience reacts to that. From there, you'll be able to see if this is the kind of content piece that you should continue putting effort into. And the third one is time. Now, this one is super important, I think, especially in the retail industry. How often does everybody get phone calls asking if something is in stock or if something is on sale? This kind of content definitely does not erase those interactions or those calls, or doesn't stop people calling you to say, are you open today, when your hours are clearly posted on every single platform that you have. But what it does do is for those odd times that someone's in a rush and maybe doesn't have time to call, or they're at work scrolling and they're not able to call and they want to see if something's in stock, they can see your latest post on social media saying, we just got this in stock today, or 5 of these left in stock, come by as soon as possible into store to grab them. This content is important to kind of keep on top of. I'd say like every week, ensure that you have a content piece that relates to time. It really helps drive people into store, I find. It also keeps you on top of mind. I think there's a difference between somebody knowing that they need something and planning to go somewhere else, and then going onto Instagram and seeing that the product's on sale at your store. That could have them walking into your door over someone else's. It's little things like this that are hard to sometimes see that exact reward, but there'll be a lot of times someone will come in saying, oh yeah, I saw you posted this on Facebook and I wanted to come and check it out for myself. When you have that kind of interaction, you'll see this content is really, really important. And again, don't forget, keep it simple. Don't go crazy with it. Keep it to these 3 if you can. Just make sure you're staying consistent. I'm just going to be mindful of time here. You will be getting these slides after, so you can share those. But I'd like to say, remember, keep it simple. Just need an iPhone and someone willing to do it. Willing is the key term. It's great to have somebody forced into content, but as long as someone is there and happy to be there, your audience will see that. And a little bit previously, we talked about using some tools to make social media easier. These are my 3 go-to social media tools that help make the process super, super easy. Canva is a great one for styling any static assets that you post. You can upload your brand assets into the platform itself. So it's really easy to create things that are on brand for you. It could be your brand colors, your fonts, your logos. You could use that to create flyers and emails as well, but it's really great for social media to keep things really consistent. CapCut is a fantastic app that you can have on your phone for editing short form videos. It's great because it can size it to the right size for Reels and TikToks, and can also do things like make captions really easy and edit it to trending audio. Things like that will make that process of content creation super easy. And of course, ChatGPT, we all use it. I think at this point, we're all kind of getting used to it being a part of our day-to-day lives. I would just say be very careful with this. Use it more as something to help you generate content ideas and help you in writing captions, but don't rely on it to be the entire source of your social media strategy. It's very easy to see brands that use ChatGPT and these AI tools, and they just don't have that authentic feeling as other brands do. And of course, let's just talk a little quickly about organic and paid social media. Now, this is something that is very unique to each business, but these are kind of the differences between organic and paid. Again, I'll be mindful of time, so you can read these more in depth after. But yeah, I just want to say, I think in this day and age, you do need a bit of both. You do need to have a strong organic content presence, but it's also important to know when to use that paid to really emphasize what you're working with. It's not just about doing ads, it's just about boosting the right message to the right people. And I would say investing in paid could be things like new product lines or seasonal changes, limited time sales, if you're having a change in location or something like that. Those are things that are great to boost because that will really engage the audience that you're trying to reach. And for this, I would say if you want to try engaging with paid ads and start trying it out, I would say just start small. Don't feel like you have to put hundreds of dollars behind this. Start with, $10 a day, get a week-long campaign going and just see what the investment is at the end of it. You can see if it's something that works for you or it didn't, but having that good balance between organic and paid is really important. Now, I do want to be mindful of time. I have a couple pro tips here, but I just say these are things that you can read through. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, but we can go through it. So don't overthink it. Again, it really comes down to the idea of keeping things simple, keeping it easy for you, because at the end of the day, the second something becomes complicated, it's the first thing to get dropped in your day of to-dos. So just make sure you're keeping it simple. Don't overthink it. Use your phone, use the tools you have and the people around you to start creating the content that your audience is looking for. Make sure you're distributing it, make sure you're posting it. Don't just sit on content that you've created for 6 months, because most likely it won't be relevant then, and then that was just time kind of wasted. And show and tell, I would like to say storytelling is incredibly important when creating content for your brand's social media. Make sure you're telling stories behind these products. People will always remember a story rather than a picture. If they know how something is used or why something is used over another product, they'll probably remember that, and you'll find that they're coming in to ask, oh, I saw this interesting post on social media saying this was how this shingle was used on this house. You'll be able to start to see the storytelling really plays into people's memory, which is really important when social media is such a fast moving landscape. And of course, use what you have. Just, don't go crazy with things. Use the people, the tools that you already have. Once you get into consistent flow, then you can start investing in either new equipment or a social media team, but just start with what you have. Social media should be fun. It should be a place where you can kind of experiment with and get to know what works for your business, and don't take it too seriously. At the end of the day, it is something that as long as you're posting content that's aligned with your brand and your brand's morals, your customers will love to see it. I would say if you can just be consistent, and everybody will be happy to see you online. And remember, you don't need to go viral, you just need to show up. Here are the key takeaways. Again, I'll be mindful of time, so you can review these after. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for having Brandish here today. We love Supply Bill Canada, so I appreciate that you asked us to be a part of this.
Thanks so much, Jillian. No, this was fabulous. And we actually had a couple of questions also come through on the chat, because I know I know you got a couple more minutes. So one was, Kelsey Patrick is looking for advice on tactics that you would recommend for lead generation versus brand awareness. So with the shift in the market, meaning we're in a softer market, especially in some provinces other than others. So mainly Ontario and BC have a lot softer of a market versus Alberta, Manitoba, and Sask. There's a lot of pressure being put on marketing teams to deliver these hard leads that are being attached to social media. And they're obviously both linked. So what would be your recommendation in terms of tactics to handle that?
In terms of, I think if you're taking the information, if I understand this correctly, do correct me if I'm wrong though, but if you're taking the information that you're seeing in your insights and engagement, it's all about creating that into a story that you can then share with your internal team to show that these are leads being generated. It's hard because sometimes if you see a like on Instagram, you can't always say that that person who liked that came into store and purchased this product. That's a really hard jump to make and virtually impossible, especially in social media, because we're not always getting that direct correlation of someone responding saying, I came to your store because I found you on social media. That doesn't always happen. But I would say there is a lot of pressure that's put on these marketing teams to communicate what they're doing and how it's working in terms of a sales conversion. I would say do your best to gather as much data as you can. Make sure you're capturing your data consistently as well. I always say, like, if you start on a Monday, make sure you're capturing what your current stats are on all your platforms, and then finish up on Friday and see what that growth has been. Make sure you're always really tracking that to share, okay, we posted 4 times this week about our sale. We saw that it grew on these days, and now our sales are this. I can convert I'm not the best in the lead generation world, but I can show that the growth of engagement through social media can be tied to maybe the growth in sales that we saw during this week. It's really just about putting that story together and understanding the data that you're getting back from your content.
And if I can add to that too, Jillian, like
Mhm.
I think a lot of people have this expectation that maybe don't understand the whole sales funnel, that you need multiple touch points. I don't go online and buy the first thing I see and instant, well, sometimes I do, but that's a personal problem. But the higher the price point is the like, right, it's going to take more touch points. So they're going to have to see. So I always use the example of, my fiance, he went in and bought this really expensive winter jacket, and he literally went into the store about 6 times before he decided to make the purchase. He watched YouTube reviews. He went onto social media. He looked at he got my opinion on everything. And then I eventually got fed up and said, listen, I'm not going into the store anymore unless you buy a freaking jacket. And that was what that ended that whole. But my point is it took 8 touch points of different platforms and including social
Mhm.
media in there to make that decision. And so if you're talking home renovations, right? I start on Pinterest, I look on TikTok, I get inspired, I go, hey, fiance, this is what I want to do. And then I start talking to contractors, and then I go into the store and look at options. So I think it's really, to Jillian's point, it's really hard to be linear. Where I've seen some other brands have successes, they'll do things like white papers to create a lead gen funnel. So it'll be top 10 reasons to work with a contractor, right? And then they fill in their email to get emailed this PDF article. And then you
Mhm.
have a list of 10 leads that you now can start nurturing using email marketing that you've gotten on social media. So that's a tactic that I've
Mhm.
seen used as well.
Mhm.
So, but anyway, we do have another question here too.
Mhm.
What are the best ways to benefit from giveaways on social media? Follow
Mhm.
us, tag us, leaving comments, etc. What callouts will engage people?
That's a great question. I always like to see it, to think about it based on how I react to seeing giveaways online. It's something that I tend to think about when I am creating content for our own brand is kind of what is stuff that you're naturally interested. If you can kind of relate to your audience or you know them well enough, you start to understand what's going to kind of pique their attention. I would say in terms of giveaways specifically, um, following is great because 9 times out of 10, a lot of people forget to unfollow you until either a content piece comes up that they are like, "Ooh, I forgot that I was even following them," or your content becomes a little bit. I don't want to use the word like harassy at the end, but sometimes after a contest goes live and you followed this a brand, they use that space after where they have all these followers to just promote all their content, kind of just like rapid fire postings. That's where you see a big drop off in followers. I would say in terms of giveaways, the best thing is do ask for followers. You can do leaving comments to tag like a friend or tag another account because that just brings more awareness to another audience. And I also think if there's not a big turnaround in terms of like sharing that post on your story, but if you can make that a part of the giveaway guidelines to share your post on their story, that's a really great way to boost engagement because people click through stories a lot now more than scroll through feeds. So that's a way to kind of build that brand awareness and have maybe more people enter your giveaways. But I would say like kind of what you have is right, following, tag us, and even just like sharing that on our stories or tagging a friend in the comments is a great way to kind of increase engagement on those posts.
Thank you. There's another question here. So, what do you think is a healthy balance to showcase your products and non-products, so customers, staff, stories on social media? What would be a good ratio on posting about your products versus sales without overwhelming your audience?
That's a great question. I would say think about how many times you're posting a week. If you're posting 3 times a week, I would say let's keep it pretty balanced. Sometimes you'll have followers who are like, well, I'm following to learn about your products, not about your staff. Why am I learning so much about your staff? You want to make sure that you're keeping everybody happy. So I'd say try to strike a good balance. But I would also use the data that you get in terms of like your sales data to know when to push products more than others. If you have times where sales are pretty low and dry, you can either use that to kind of keep the product top of mind, but use that as a time to keep showing what's happening at your store or the new products that have landed. Like try to use that data that you've captured from your sales and your audience to find what that balance is for them. If you don't think that product content is really relevant because your audiences are all experts and they don't really look to you on social media for that, they look to you to build more of a relationship on social media, then start posting a bit more fun content in terms of your customer staff stories. But yeah, striking that balance, I would say in terms of a good ratio, let's say you're posting 3 times a week, I would say 2 posts should be product or, like service based, or to one of a personal customer based story. I still think it should lean towards the business side because at the end of the day, that's what we're all doing. But striking that balance is important. So that's not just we're pushing products down. And it's also, about how you share those products, making sure that you're really telling the importance of it and not just posting a photo of it with zero context as to why.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jillian. I think, we'll call it time just because I'm sure you have
Yes.
another meeting to get to as well. But
No, all
I just,
good.
I want to give a little shout out to Brandish. So Supply Build Canada, we've actually worked with Brandish last year on our Let's Go Build campaign. And they used some social media in there as well. And their digital team did a fabulous job. And we were very impressed with the results that was driving traffic to the job board. So firsthand, we've worked with them. They're a really great partner of ours. And obviously you can see they have the masterminds of Jillian at their disposal. So they're a great partner to work with if you do have questions or need support. And again, a big thank you to Sexton, who is really making our education possible this year by providing that support and allowing us to do this. So thank you so much, Jillian. And so what we'll do after everybody too is we'll send an email. You'll get it from Abby, and she'll send an email with the recording, a copy of the slides as well. And then I'm sure if you guys have any questions too, Jillian, are you okay if we share your information with everybody and that they can reach out if anybody has any additional questions after? Perfect. All right. Yeah. Well, then I think this is it. We'll call it.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Jillian. Yeah, you were fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks so much. This was a great time. Have a great summer.
Yeah, you too. Bye.